All right, first thing I want to do is welcome you to the channel today. We've got some things to talk about, and we're going to try to answer some questions that have been coming up on the channel. And so instead of, let me see if I can just answer some of these questions. We're going to be talking about this Fimco sprayer today. This is not a product review. I'm just going to tell you straight up that the sprayers work great for what I use it for, but I'm going to answer some questions. We're going to talk about some setup on it and the things I've come across in the last few years of owning it, and the things that I think are great about it. We're not going to get into, like I said, a review, so we're not going to be talking about a bunch of negative stuff or anything like that. Number one, if you have a lot of pasture to spray, this is not the sprayer for it. This is a 65-gallon sprayer. It sprays well for what I use it for. If you have small acreage, this is it right here. And I'm usually only spraying small areas at a time. First off, chemical's not cheap, any kind of chemical you use. Now, if I was spraying 100 acres of weed spray, this would take a long time to spray with. It just would. I mean, you're going to have to fill it several times and so forth. And if you have areas where you don't have access to a water faucet or water, then this sprayer needs to be filled quite often for that kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking about the use of this sprayer. We'll talk about a little bit of the setup on it. We'll talk about putting it away. We'll talk about filling it up. We're going to talk about quite a few things. I'm going to show you the different things about it of how I set it up to use. Now, also, before we get into it, you have instructions, and a lot of the instructions for this Fimco sprayer, you need to just look at those instructions and try to utilize them. A lot of those setups that are in the manual are correct. It sprays the best when you pay attention to those setups. So let's get into it. Now, keep in mind, as we're going through this, there are scenarios that could change here and there, depending on chemicals that you're using, depending on the application amounts and so forth. On the Fimco sprayer, in the manual or in the instruction manual, it'll give you speeds, pressure settings and so forth, rates of application and so forth. So it'll tell you maybe how much pressure to put on this machine in order for it to spray a certain amount of chemical per acre. And it depends on what you're spraying, the chemical that you're spraying. Usually, look, pay attention to your manuals, pay attention to your instructions on whatever you're spraying. If it's an herbicide or pesticide or anything like that, pay attention to that. There are certain chemicals that may not be able to go into this sprayer for one reason or the other. I don't know what all those reasons might be, but pay attention to that in your instruction manual. We've been spraying mesquite with this mainly, and some weed spray. I've been using a product called Remedy. I'm not sponsored, okay? So therefore, but we've been using a chemical called Remedy to spray mesquites with. We spray Remedy and a surfactant in this to cover the leaves. And so that's what I actually mainly use this sprayer for. I don't use it for a whole lot of other stuff. Now, this could be used to spray cattle with for flies or whatever that might be that you need to spray your cattle with. But this particular sprayer does not have an electric motor on it. It is PTO driven from the tractor. So you have that to consider too. If you are going to buy this sprayer, then you need to have a PTO and a tractor to run this thing. And that's I chose that because of the way I use it. And they have sprayers that you can set in the back of your Polaris or your side by side or even on your four-wheeler or whatever it is, and go out and spray that way. This particular sprayer uses a PTO drive, and therefore you have to have a PTO setup. There are better sprayers for different applications. Large acreage, this is just really not the sprayer for it. You usually probably want to drag behind boom sprayer or something like that. This is considered a boomless sprayer. Now, it does have a boom on it. It has this short boom on it though. It's not very long. And you have a distance between here and here and here and here. You have two end sprayers. There's one there, and there's one here, and then you have a middle sprayer. The difference between a boomless sprayer and a boom sprayer is that a boom sprayer will have booms that will fold out and go out one way or the other, or both. And that boom sprayer covers whatever it is you need to cover. And the rate of spray and the way they work is different than this one. So if you'll notice here, this is a PTO pump. Now that pump has a chain on it right here that I have hooked up to the, actually have it hooked up to the 3-point, and that chain is to keep this pump from spinning when you turn it on. You want to make sure this chain is hooked up, otherwise the pump will spin on this thing, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, so make sure you check that. Make sure you have the chain hooked up. Double check that every time. Other things to consider is the height of the sprayer. Now I have actually been spraying lower because we've had a little bit of wind, and I've been spraying a little bit lower to just keep the spray from drifting off. But the nozzles, according to the manual, need to be set about 33 inches to the center of the nozzle to the ground. And that on this TYM is almost all the way up. The 3-point hitch is almost at full height. It's not quite, but it's pretty close. And so consider that as well, the height of that sprayer, how high you're spraying, and that 33 inches is where it's recommended to run at. So if you look right here, we are running basically 33 inches. We're a hair bit low, but we're not too much. It's about 33 inches from the ground right now, as we said. The other thing that I run into is questions about my nozzles and how I'm making it spray the way I do. Well, according to the instructions, these nozzles on the ends should be set at 15 degrees. And so basically this is adjustable. So I can move this nozzle up and down, and there's little clicks in there for the nozzle. I usually run these nozzles at 15 degrees, which is basically that first notch. And then you want the nozzle, this one's not actually doing it, but you want the nozzle to spray straight down. Now let me show you real quickly on how to fix this problem right here. Now this nozzle, it twists, and then you have to pull it off, and it's kind of difficult. It doesn't just pull off very easy. I kind of have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to come loose. And this is a little bit of a guessing game, by the way, once you have it off of there. Once I have that nozzle off, then I know that I need to twist it counterclockwise because it's a little bit too far. You grab this right here, and you want to push it in, and then twist it just a little bit, and then pull it back out. After you twist it that little bit, then you'll put it back on and see where you're at. This is kind of a process that you just have to do to get yourself set up in order to use the sprayer. Now you can do this without actually pulling the nozzle. Like I have it loose right now, and I can tell already that I need to twist this nozzle. Now I'm going to twist it back, so when I twist it on, to the deal, we're pointing straight back down again, and we're still not quite there. And now we are. We're pointing straight down at the ground now. The nozzle's pointing straight down. This is what you want. So you want a 15 degrees here and pointing straight down. Now this center nozzle is set. It's pretty well what it is. And that nozzle supposedly will spray out close to 80 inches. And therefore you have your coverage. So you'll have a spray this way. This one's going to be spraying. It has a little bit of a spray back on it, so you'll cover that too. So you'll have spray this way and a little bit of spray this way. Same thing applies to both sides. They need to be set up the same way. So this nozzle set at 15 degrees. It's pointing straight down at the ground. I'm happy with that. You also have switches on here that you can turn them on and off. This is in the on position right now, but I can turn this nozzle off. I'm in the off position now, or I can turn it on. Now what does that mean for you is that if you want to spray a fence line or something like that, and you don't want to spray the other direction, you can turn these nozzles off and spray only in one direction. The center nozzle does the same thing. You have an on and off here. You can turn this nozzle off, you can turn this nozzle off, and just use this one nozzle if you need to. Or you can turn off, you can turn anything here off to spray any way you want it to spray. Came in from outside. It's hot out there. Came inside, get in the shade, get out of the sun. This is the sprayer tips that we're using on that Fimco. It does have a number. Now it's super hard to read. You're not going to see this on camera, but there's a number right here. And this particular one is an XT010. Now that's the spray tips that I'm using on this sprayer. This is the valve for that tip. That sprayer tip goes on here. There's a little notch, and it goes on like this. And you want to set that in there and then twist it, and that will determine, that will lock it in place. Remember, the sprayer tips are adjustable. You can turn them. They're a little bit tight, so you're going to have to really kind of turn on them, but they do turn. And so keep that in mind. This particular spray tip here has been replaced. This whole unit has been replaced. Nothing wrong with the sprayer tip. This particular valve has a problem. The on and off here has a rubber. This comes out, by the way. This little rubber gasket is leaking, and so it drips water or chemical whenever you start spraying. And so they do make these to be replaced. And so if you can go online and look up the Fimco stuff, you may be able to get it from your local farm store, and you can replace these pieces right here if they start leaking on you like mine have, and so forth. So you have that. You can do that. Remember, this piece here is adjustable, so it twists. You know, you hear all the clicking. I just go to about the first notch, which is about right there, and I get my 15 degree spray. Now, one of the things I have been dealing with on this sprayer, and I have not been able to fix, is that you'll get a drip off of here. And the reason you're getting that drip is because that sprayer, when it's spraying, some of the chemical kind of stops right here. It's supposed to spray a little bit backwards, and it just starts to drip as well. And it's not dripping bad, but it's dripping. And so there's a little bit of wasted spray because of that. So far, I've had to replace these one time. This whole nozzle, well, not the nozzle itself, but this whole valve and nozzle assembly is not cheap though. This is like an $80 part right here. Now, you can look them up, but this is like an $80 part. And so if you have to replace this, they're about $80. So be careful with them. Try not to break them, and so forth, like I may have just done. There we go. Nope, I didn't break it. But these can be broken, so be careful with them. And on this particular one, I just need to replace, I think I just need to replace this gasket right here. But you can just buy this piece if you need to. As long as nothing's broke and everything looks good in here, you should be able to just buy this piece. Now, the setup on this thing is going to basically be your needs. According to the instructions, it tells you how fast to drive and basically the amount of pressure for putting it down on the plants. Now, in my case, because I'm looking for a certain amount of chemical or herbicide to go on our mesquites, I will start spraying, I will stop, I will get out, I will come back here to the first plant, the last plant I covered, look at the coverage on that plant. I want to make sure that plant is covered, and that's the thing that I'm looking for, is the plant covered with all the chemical that I need. And on a mesquite, you want to cover as many of the leaves as possible. And actually, you're supposed to make sure that plant is completely covered. And so, because the mesquites they're not sporadic, they're very close together, but they're not like on top of each other either. In some places, you'll have a spread between each mesquite plant. And therefore, you're going to be spraying the grass too with this thing. Now, supposedly with the herbicides I'm using, it's a selective herbicide, but it does get a lot of the weeds as well. So when I spray, it's okay, because I'm trying to catch the weeds as well and the mesquite, and I'm killing both of them right now. Now, the sprayer is empty right now. Under the sprayer right here is a filter. You need to check that filter before you go out and spray every time. It just unscrews off of there, and you want to check it. We have a little bit of water in it. This one actually has a little bit of stuff in it. It's not too bad though. Don't do what I just did. I just turned it upside down and dropped the rubber gasket out of it. But want to make sure this is clean before you start spraying or before you even put water in it. It had some water in it from clean out. So you just want to make sure this is good and clean. Otherwise, you could stop up your sprayer. It's just a fine filter. This is all it is, and it's just a fine filter. And you want to make sure that's good and clean. Make sure you have nothing inside of your filter housing and so forth. Put your rubber gasket back in and put it back on, and make sure it's tightened down and you don't have any leaks anywhere, because that will affect everything. Let's see if I can get this back on without too much issue. Now this particular sprayer does have a wand on it, so you can turn this valve on right here, turn this valve off right here, and straight out is off. And then you're using the wand sprayer, and it's about a 25-foot hose on this wand sprayer. So quickly make sure this is off when you're spraying with your boom. This is your boom on and off. Turn your boom off, turn this one on to spray with your nozzle. Turn it off when you're spraying just your boom, turn this back on, and that's how that works. You do have a pressure gauge right here. I don't actually use the pressure gauge that much, even though you're supposed to. It's just, I kind of just start spraying, and then I set my pressure where I see everything looks like it's spraying very well. This is where you set the pressure and so forth. Now that's just what I do. You need to follow your instructions and do what it says. But right here is your adjustment for how much pressure you're putting out. What I'm going to tell you straight up is that this is a trial and error situation in my case. I don't ever, just because the manual says something, I kind of have to do my own checking for what I'm doing. I want to make sure my leaves are covered and so forth. And because of that, the manual may not be 100% accurate on every single thing. But when you spray, you do want to follow the instructions according to your chemical and according to the sprayer on how fast to run, how much pressure to run, what nozzles you have, and so forth. So it's a little more complicated than just throwing water in it, making sure it sprays, and taking off. Now the other thing is to make sure that your tank is level with the ground. That way you empty the tank completely. Don't have it tilted up or down like this. You want to make sure that that tank is level. On this particular sprayer, this is a category 1. So I have sleeves to put this on this particular tractor for category 2. I have a sleeve up here on the top link to make sure it's set up to fit the top link. You really don't want it just bouncing all over the place. It's not good for the pins and anything else. You also want the sprayer to sit in here tight like this. You don't want a bunch of swaying back and forth. And so I have my stabilizer bars set as tight as I can get them, and that way we don't have a bunch of movement on this sprayer. Now, a little bit of movement's not gonna hurt anything. Kind of helps mix it up, keep the chemical mixed up, and so forth. All right, a couple of things I want to point out inside this tank. One of the things is over here, this plug that you see, or the hole you see right here, that plug or hole is for the suction, so that's where your fluid's going. The other hole on this side, very difficult here to show you. This other hole on this other side right here, that's your return. And so what you can do is you can put water in this and then put your fluid in it or your chemical in it. And after doing so, what ends up happening is it will agitate the chemicals into the tank. So the first hole right here, that's where your suction is. The second hole, which is over here, that hole right there is what is your bypass. And that right there will agitate the tank. Now I'm going to show you how to do that. You want to take your PTO and you want to turn it on after you put water in the tank. Now I've not filled the tank completely up, but I want to show you how this is working. Then what you want to do is you want to turn this off to the off position. And what that's going to do is cause this thing to start bypassing. Right here's your bypass, and then that will bypass in the tank. And so we're bypassing a little bit in the tank down there. It's hard to tell, but we are bypassing. The fluid is bypassing back up into the tank, and it will agitate the water or your chemicals a little bit. And that's what you're supposed to do. So once you have this tank half full of water, You want to add your chemical, turn on your tractor, turn on your PTO, turn off your valve over here to off position, and it will bypass into here, and what it will start doing is mixing that chemical and water up. Now, of course, you are going to get agitation when you're out in the field and the whole thing is moving and shaking and moving around. That will cause your chemicals to mix up as well. But you have the ability to turn this off, turn your PTO on, and it will bypass through here, push the fluid around in the tank and agitate your chemicals. Now, this sprayer is supposed to have a 35-foot swath of spray. I will tell you, just from my experience, it's not quite 35 feet. It's more like 25, between 25 and 30 feet. I do not always run the RPMs up to 540 though. On the TYM, I may run it somewhere between, it just kind of depends. I kind of run it between 16, 17. I have been up to 2,000 RPM, but that's still not at the 540. Now, that's up to you. And you can follow your instructions the way it's supposed to be. I did it that way because I am trying to get the leaf coverage that I'm after. And by running at a lower RPM, I'm still getting a good spray. I still get the coverage out there, but I'm getting a little more chemical on the plant, and that's what I needed to do. Anything faster, though, started to not cover my leaves as well as I wanted to. But like I said, this is one of those things where you're going to have to do some trial and error. You're going to have to make some decisions. If you got to have a full coverage on that plant, then you need to do what you have to do. You have to slow down, turn your pressures up a little bit, whatever it is to get the coverage you need. But all that is dependent upon the chemical and what you're doing here. So that's basic knowledge of this sprayer. Let's talk about winter storage. Some of the things you need to be thinking about on winter storage is don't forget to get all the water out of all the hoses, out of the pump, out of the valves, out of the valves that are on the machine. You don't forget to get all the water out of it. Now, in the book on this particular one, it recommends using an automotive antifreeze of some type, running that up into the system and letting it set for the winter. Pull your pump off, pull your sprayer off, store it inside, and you should be able to get, that works out pretty well. They also want you to have an anti-corrosive antifreeze and a rust inhibitor in that antifreeze. I take my pump off, completely off of everything. You want to seal your hoses up if you're doing that so that mud daubers and other things don't crawl up inside of them or dirt get inside of them. You do want to do that though. You want to make sure your hoses, your inlet on your tank, the hoses going to the pump, all that is sealed up so nothing gets in it. And then what I recommend personally, this is a personal recommendation, has nothing to do with what the instruction manual says. I'm going to tell you that now, is to get a good mineral oil or something like that and get it in the pump, turn the pump, coat the interiors of the pump, and then put it away. Make sure everything's sealed up after that. And that should keep your pump from rusting up. It should keep it free. Last year I did not do that, and I ended up with a rusty pump and had to clean it up, had to get oil in it, we break it loose, the whole works. And that's an issue that you could deal with if you do not take care of those problems. Now, I'm pretty sure I missed something. I can't do a video for a spray rig based on every scenario and whatever your scenario is, depending on what you're spraying and so forth. I just can't do that. But I can tell you what my setup is, what I'm doing with the sprayer. I've been asked about how I got my spray patterns the way I have them and so forth. A lot of that was trial and error. A lot of that was the instructions that are given to me through the manual. A lot of those instructions are really pretty good. They actually work out pretty well. I didn't have much problem, little small tweaks here and there just to get everything to spray just exactly the way I want it to. You want that spray to go out and fall. And you want an even coverage all the way across to that middle sprayer, an even coverage there. You want everything to be as nice and covered and sprayed as well as it can be. That's how I do it. So, do what you got to do and kind of play with your sprayers. If you have one, depending on what kind of sprayer you have, You need to follow those instructions. Listen, guys, I do appreciate everybody that's tuned in, but until the next video, thanks.